dress flip-flops on, singing to that highway song. Got a little naive smile, the kind that drives you out. Nothing like playing with fire, brings boy to life. Beat you with a fuse you light, good, you're dynamite. You made my day when you walked into town.
The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
14:20 in the morning, 14 minutes and 20 seconds worth of sports talk to get you through your daily commute. Hot takes, recaps, best bets, and a little humor to get your day going in the right direction. Sit back, grab your coffee, and let's get into it. All right, 14:20 in the morning for this 25th day of October 2023. Today's show, as always, brought to you by SeatGeek.com and the SeatGeek app. Use promo code 1420pod at SeatGeek.com today and save yourself $20 on your first purchase there at SeatGeek. And remember, we are part of the Belly Up Media Network. Go to bellyupsports.com for all their great articles and shows, such as the Corner Booth podcast, Crap Brewed Sports, one of my favorite, the guys were on last night, Motor City Realist for everything about the world of sports in Detroit. Stumbled on my tongue there for half a second. And No Credentials Required. I've been a guest on that one a couple of times. Great podcast up and down the lineup there at Belly Up Sports. Thank you very much for making us a part of your day each and every day from all of us here at 1420 World Headquarters. If you were a betting man, I tell you what, you put down $20 at the beginning of the baseball season, had the Arizona Diamondbacks and the Texas Rangers going to the World Series. You have a pocket full of cash this morning. You put it down to Bet US. You probably have I did some research this morning, 1,470 smackers in your jeans, filling your pockets. Unlikely World Series matchup happening here. Not the sexiest matchup by any means. It would have been a nicer thing to see maybe the Philadelphia Phillies in the World Series, but just for the East Coast, West Coast kind of a thing. But it's not to be. We'll get to the Phillies in half a second. That team stumbled all over themselves. Out of the two teams, you got to think that maybe the Texas Rangers, out of the two, were more than likely to get to a World Series. They led the American League West throughout the year until they crapped themselves in the last 2 weeks of the season. You remember they had that race with the Houston Astros and the Seattle Mariners, but they found a way to get into the playoffs. They rolled through Baltimore, they rolled through Tampa, and then they had a bit of obviously a tough goal with the Houston Astros. They got it done, and then even as early as even Saturday, you got to think that both of these teams, if you were a betting man on that one too, you would have been hard pressed to deal with that, because both teams were down 3-2. Both teams were going on the road, and you got to think the Astros or the Philadelphia Phillies especially, we're going to win one out of those two games at home, but it just wasn't meant to be the way playoff baseball works. The Phillies, let's get into the Phillies a little bit. They crapped on themselves a little bit as the season started. They weren't hitting the ball very well. They struck out a lot. They were losing. Trey Turner called himself one of the worst baseball players in the game. His mom agreed with him the whole bit. So you got to think that the Phillies, they are who they are. They were a team that ended up striking out. There's a real, like Schwarber. Yeah, he had the 5 home runs, whatever it was in the NLCS, but then when push came to shove, these guys popped up, struck out, and on and on. Schwarber hit under 200 all season long, and then when it came to get a base hit last night, they didn't get it done. And then you look at the at bat. I think it was in the 5th inning. Harper had 2 guys on, and instead of just pushing something out down the first baseline on an outside pitch, he tried to pull it, ended up popping up, inning over, and there you go. That's how baseball's played now. I get it, the analytics and everything else, but you know what? The old days when you just smack something down the line and score a run to tie the game, the Phillies just didn't get it done in front of their crowd last night, and that's it for the Philadelphia Phillies. Once again, that big payroll, they went out and spent a bunch of money trying to get back to World Series, and they ended up failing and not making it. So now it's back to the drawing board. And you got to think a lot of baseball teams are going to, like, yes, the Rangers, they spent a ton of money in the offseason. Marcus Semien, Corey Seager, and the like, and everything they got going there. And they went and got Montgomery, and then they got Scherzer as well. But the Mets are paying for Scherzer, so it doesn't really much matter on that one. But like you think about that Arizona Diamondbacks team, who doesn't spend a bunch of money. In fact, their highest paid player, he didn't even play. He hasn't played since I think April, when they told Madison Bumgarner to take his ball and go home. He was released. I think he was to make about 30 million bucks the rest of the season, and they paid him $23 million not to pay, and he's their highest paid player. The Arizona Diamondbacks took advantage of the new rules with the stealing base. They run like they got a bunch of Ricky Hendersons on the base pass, and they found a way to make what they have work. That Corbin Carroll is a hell of a player. He struggled at the beginning of the NLCS, obviously, but he got it done last night. A lot going on with him. He went 3 for 4, stolen base and the like, and that's what he's been doing all season. He's going to be their rookie of the year. There's no getting around that. But that Arizona team, you got to think there's going to be a lot of teams looking at what they did with their minimal payroll, making the game work for them instead of working against the game. And baseball, I think, is going to be leaning towards that. You look at the Baltimore Orioles; they were everybody's favorite going into this season. But just 2 years ago, the Arizona Diamondbacks and the Rangers as well, they also lost 100 games. So you got to think that both these teams have a different way to get back to success. But a lot of teams are going to look at what the Baltimore Orioles did and the Arizona Diamondbacks did by not having to spend a bunch of money, having some guys that play a little bit, having guys that can run a little bit and getting it done. And that's what the Diamondbacks did. They have nothing for a payroll. They have nothing going on for them. They lost 100 games 2 years ago, and everybody talks about the Baltimore Orioles losing that 110 games, which is a lot more. But the Arizona Diamondbacks have done the exact same thing. They got what the heck's his name, Tommy Fat. They got a lot of vowels on those names. Brandon Fat, and Andrew Saalfrank, two guys who are basically like real raw rookies. That Saalfrank kid, he struggled a little bit last night, a couple of walks, but he was pretty solid. He only played 11 big league games prior to the playoffs starting, and he was pretty composed throughout the playoffs so far. And that Saalfrank kid's going to be a really good pitcher, and they got him for nothing right now. And he, like I said, he struggled last night, but to have the balls to go out there and the way that Arizona's manager had him going out on the field night in, night out, and the way he managed that bullpen, I think it's getting a little bit risky in my opinion. But having those guys go out there, and that Brandon Fat, he's a raw rookie too. So you have a couple of kids that you're not paying a bunch of money to that are going out and getting the job done. I think that Tony Lavello is going to have a little bit of situation handling that bullpen, because I think he gets a little bit too fancy and he gets a little bit too smart for his own good, going back and having these pitch limits and everything else, not going to feel the game like we talked about with Bruce Bochy's counterpart in this World Series. That Bochy has that bit of a feel, and he can stick with guys a little bit. But they got it done, and now they're going to the World Series. And who would have thought an 84 team with a negative run differential would be going to the playoffs? And you're going to see, like I said, you're going to see a lot of teams looking, saying, "Why are we spending this much money when these guys are doing that?" And I've been saying that for years. That like a guy like Hal Steinbrenner, I don't want to make this Yankee centric, but a guy like Hank Steinbrenner, he's going to say, like, why am I spending this much money? Why am I spending $300 million to not get the World Series when you got these teams doing this? 84 wins isn't a lot, obviously, but they got it done. And I think they got to do something with the playoff matchups and everything else, because an 84 win team, it's you're over 3 games over 500. That shouldn't be a world champion. You're 3 games over 500. You could catch lightning in a bottle. I guess that's how playoffs work in all sports, but I really believe that they got to do something with the playoffs. The seeding is kind of wishy-washy and everything else. I don't know what you can do. Like I like the fact that there is a wild card. I like the fact that more fan bases are involved in it right to the bitter end till the end of it. But I don't like the fact that an 84 win team has a chance to win a World Series. So really, how much what does the regular season really mean? If you can sneak into the playoffs and you sneak in the playoffs and you have a chance, I guess that's how it works. But it seems like the regular season gets a lot less. Has a lot less importance to it as we keep moving forward with how big baseball is and having 12 teams in playoffs and everything else. It's a bit wishy-washy, I know, but it's one of those things that maybe me and Dave will talk about it tomorrow night when we do our regular show. The Arizona Diamondbacks going back to the World Series the first time since 2001, which was still the best World Series I've ever watched, even though the Yankees lost that one. They were America. The Yankees were America's sweetheart that year because of the 9/11 tragedy and everything else that happened. So having the Diamondbacks back there again for the first time in 22 years. It's crazy. It's been 22 years since that happened. But having them back to the World Series is going to be refreshing, I guess. Having somebody out there, and there hasn't been a repeat World Series champion for a long, long time. 23 years, I think it is, since the Yankees did it in '99 and 2000. The Houston Astros, they barked all over themselves. They couldn't get a win at home all year. Basically, when it came down to it, and they had 2 chances to get it done, and they couldn't get it done against that great Texas Rangers team that can flat out hit. You got some guys that can really, really swing it that are like that. Adolis Garcia, 4 home runs in the last 5 games, or 5 home runs, whatever it's been, 15 RBIs, set himself a new record for the NL or ALCS, for RBIs in a series. Corey Seager, Marcus Semien, and then they went out and got Jordan Montgomery, who's been an absolute stud. He's going to get himself paid. And Cashman, you should be ashamed of yourself for letting that kid go for Harrison Bader. Oops, that's a big mistake by Cashman. One of those. Let's not talk about the Yankees a whole bunch. It seems always leak in there. We're talking baseball here at 14:20 in the morning, but it's going to be an interesting World Series. You got to, if you were a betting man, you got to think that the Texas Rangers are probably going to win it. I would say like in 6 games. I would think, but it just depends on their bullpen. How much do you trust Aroldis Chapman, the Cuban Missile? What are you going to get out of him? What are you going to get out of Scherzer? Because Scherzer wasn't good in his playoff start last series against the Astros. You just wonder what's going to happen there. I like the fact that Montgomery's been really good for the Rangers. They'll probably get 2 starts out of him. They used him a little bit the other night in that series clinching win Game 7 where they blew out the Houston Astros. I like the Texas Rangers to win this one, so you should probably bet on the Arizona Diamondbacks to win the World Series, because I'm usually not very good at the betting thing. If you notice on what was it, on Monday, I said that they're guaranteed that the Astros were going to win, and I guaranteed the Phillies were going to win, and look how that turned out. Not very well. So don't listen to my betting advice, except for, we do the Brent's Best Bets on betus.com. Use promo code 1420BETUS. But I like this World Series. It's not going to be the sexiest one. It's not going to have a lot of eyeballs on it. There's not a lot of Rangers fans out there. There's definitely not a lot of Diamondbacks fans out there. Jared from the Corner Booth podcast, he's a big Diamondbacks fan. I don't know how that all turned out to be. It's just one of those things. But there's not going to be the sexiest World Series. The East Coast won't be watching it. There won't be sports bars across Manhattan or Philadelphia or anywhere on the East Coast tuning into this World Series. And that's the one problem that baseball has. It's such a regional sport that you're not going to get a lot of eyeballs and earballs on this thing. The true diehard baseball people, but the fringe people aren't going to be watching this World Series at all. It's not two of the sexiest teams. There's not much juice between these 2 teams. There isn't any hatred to there's not the Yankee hatred or the Houston Astros hatred or the Dodger fandom or anything else. These are two teams that don't have a lot of a big following outside of their area, and that's a problem that baseball has to figure out and has to find a way to get more eyeballs on these teams throughout the season. It's just not a thing that happens. I don't know what you can do and how you can do it. Make the game more accessible, I guess. Find ways to have more games on TV that aren't you don't have to pay $19.95 to watch. Make sure you can get more eyeballs on the game of baseball, because it's going to be great. I watch the World Series every year. It's just going to be interesting to see how many people other than me are going to be watching this thing. I know there won't be a ton of talk, a ton of juice on all the sports networks, everything else about this World Series. So that's why you got to come to 14:20 in the morning. We'll get you all your baseball needs on a daily basis throughout this World Series. I'll get something together maybe tomorrow to do, or maybe on Friday afternoon, get some guys together, and we'll talk about the World Series coming up, get our predictions, and we'll get that going on Friday. But yeah, on a side note, yesterday they had that frozen flash frozen or frozen whatever it was that the NHL called it, and they had all 32 teams were playing 16 games yesterday throughout the day, and they staggered the start times. I live in Canada, hockey crazed Canada, and I couldn't watch any games. I don't have the NHL package, or I just haven't signed up. I haven't figured out how to sign it up or whatever it is. Every game was blacked out. There was nothing on until about 8 o'clock last night when the Rangers and Flames hit the ice, and it's odd that the NHL wants to promote the game and get it going, but people who want to watch the game can't watch it. So you're kind of pushing Brent away, and you're kind of pushing other people away from watching the sport. So hockey, figure it out how to get rid of all these blackouts. I can't drive to Montreal. I can't drive to Toronto. I can't drive to Winnipeg to watch a game. Don't get rid of the blackouts. I understand blacking them out in the local market. I get it. I 100% get it. But when you have this thing going on, you're promoting this thing across the country. You're promoting this frozen, whatever it was called yesterday, to have people going to the games, to have people watching the game, to grow the game. Make sure people can watch it. To have every game blacked out where I couldn't see them, I had to listen to the Leafs game on the radio. But where I couldn't watch it, it's ridiculous. I understand you want people to pay for the app and everything else, but you can't have that on a daily basis. Have it a one-day thing where you can have everybody watching the freaking games. I didn't swear. I got away with one. Have everybody sitting there, have everybody watching the games, and grow the game. If you don't have eyeballs and earballs on it, it'll never grow. There's my little rant for the day. Anyways, here's a little word from our friends over at SeatGeek.
The foul baller. If there's a ball that's gone foul, he's gone to get it. Under his watchful gaze, all bevs, binoculars, and ballpark brats are safe. He's the only thing that stands between his section and certain destruction. That's why he only trusts SeatGeek with his tickets. the ticketing app trusted by fans. SeatGeek, so fans can fan.
Be sure to use promo code 1420pod at SeatGeek.com today and save yourself $20 on your first purchase over there at SeatGeek. Because apparently you have to actually physically go to a game to be able to watch it nowadays. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. I don't understand it, but this is one of those things. Maybe we'll do some kind of I don't know what I'm trying to. I know what I'm trying to say, but I just can't say it right now. Anyways, let's do birthdays and on this day and get you guys out of here. On this day in 1986, the New York Mets were trailing the Boston Red Sox 5-3 with 2 out in the bottom of the 10th inning with no runners on base in Game 6 of the World Series when the improbable happened in front of 55,078 people at Shea Stadium in Queens, New York. Red Sox pitcher Calvin Girardi gave up 3 consecutive singles to Gary Carter, Kevin Mitchell, and Ray Knight to make the score 5-4, giving way for Bob Stanley to the mound versus Mookie Wilson. He threw a wild 2-2 pitch in the dirt that scored Mitchell from third. And what happens next will forever be entrenched in people's minds. Bet Mookie Wilson. Mookie Wilson hit a ground ball down first base that somehow eluded Red Sox first baseman Bill Buckner and went through his legs and went behind first base, allowing Knight to score on the air that the Mets would go on to win the World Series 2 nights later, and the curse of the Bambino would live on forever. There it is, going through Buckner's leg. Wilson going to first, and Ray Knight scoring all the way from third base on the air. Improbable, unbelievable that happened with 2 outs in the unbelievable World Series. It was crazy to think that happened. If you remember, they had when I was watching this, I remember this vividly actually when I was a kid. They had the champagne on ice and everything else, and they were putting the tarps up to get the in the dressing room to get spray to get people save people's equipment and everything else. But and then it was all of a sudden it was over. They had to get everything out of the dugouts or out of the clubhouse and clear it and get all the celebration and the shirts and the hats and all the stuff out in a hurry because the Mets came back and won that thing. It's crazy. And everybody blames Buckner, but there was a wild pitch and there were some errors and everything else. But it got down like the pitching wasn't great. Clemens was great that game, but the way it all turned out, it wasn't Buckner's fault. Yes, he at the end of it turned out to be, but that wild pitch, and it was more of a catcher fault. Like it was just an absolute mess that happened after that. And you can kind of compare it to what happened with the Bartman game with the Cubs. Like you can blame Bartman. It was everything after that led to that big inning for the Marlins back in 2003, I think it was. But yeah, it's crazy to think that 37 years ago today, the curse of Bambino was going to end. Anyways, let's get to the next one here. Happy 57th birthday to retired NHLer and Toronto Maple Leafs legend Wendel Clark, born on this day in Kelvington, Saskatchewan. Clark was drafted first overall by the Toronto Maple Leafs after playing 2 seasons with the Saskatoon Blades of the Western Hockey League, where he recorded 155 points and 478 penalty minutes in his 2 years as junior. Clark's parade to the penalty box didn't stop in his first 2 seasons in the National Hockey League, where he would amass 498 penalty minutes, go along with 105 points in his first 146 games. Clark's first stint with the Leafs ended after the 93-94 season that saw the Maple Leafs lose in the conference finals the second consecutive season, as he was traded to the Quebec Nordiques in a deal that included another Leafs legend, Matt Sundin. Clark would play 15 injury-plagued seasons in his career with stops in Toronto, Quebec, the Islanders, Detroit, Tampa, and Chicago. He scored 330 goals, 234 assists for 564 points, and 1,690 penalty minutes. Wendel Clark, one of the toughest to ever play the game, and fellow Notre Dame Hound, just like yours truly is, Notre Dame Hound, but he's a legend. Wendel Clark is an absolute legend of the game of hockey. Happy birthday to Wendel Clark. There it is. There's 14:20 in the morning for today. Thank you very much for listening on podcast form. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel when you get a chance. If you are listening to the podcast, go over to YouTube and hit subscribe and check us out there. Yeah, that's it. Dave and I are doing a show tomorrow night. I got talk with the intern later on today. We're going to talk about Chicago sports and how to get that going on and see what he's got planned for the 1420 podcast. So things are going pretty good here in 1420 land. Anyways, remember. Oh, and then tomorrow morning, we're going to Brian Germano. We're going to talk Rangers hockey tomorrow morning at 1420 in the morning. So that's going to be a lot of fun too. That's it. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Remember, it doesn't matter where you are. It's who you're with. Have a good day, folks. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
You just listened to the 1420 Sports Bar podcast. 4 beer with sports talk and a whole lot more. We are part of the Belly Up Media